Hey everybody and welcome to another video. I am Mike B and today we're going to be doing a video that I never thought I'd be making because the idea just never occurred to me. I was watching another YouTuber and got the idea from his video. Link to his channel, well actually the video that I got the idea from, so you can see his take on it and then you can get to his channel from there, is in the description. It's 8mmMauserMan. He does some really good reviews with different kind of surplus 8mm. Doing velocity tests, reliability tests, things like that. Very simple. It reminds me a lot of my older videos back when I first started. His are a lot more eloquent and better produced, but it's kind of that same vibe of being real, not being overly produced and all that stuff, so I enjoy that. He also is a fan of mine, but I do watch his videos if I'm, like the other day I had to look up to see if getting that surplus Greek ammo that's going around right now is worth it. I came to the conclusion no, because of what he tested. So his content is really great. And anyway, if you haven't seen yet, click on his video. His video was if I could only have one gun. And I said, oh, that's an interesting idea. And I gave it a chance and watched it. And he took a different approach. It's not like just asking the simple question of like, what's your favorite gun or this or that. His kind of thought process was, well, in a lot of places in the world and sometimes in the United States, there are limited numbers of firearms that citizens are allowed to own. Some can own one, some can own 3, 5, 7. Who knows, and there's a limit on what type it is and whatever. But if I had to choose just one for all around, if I could only legally own one gun, what would it be and why? And so he went through and gave his opinion, and I don't think he's wrong, I don't think he's right, but that works for him and for his circumstances that he believes would be a good idea. Or not a good idea, but like he would think that that particular firearm would be a good idea for all the circumstances that would apply to him. That's fine, I enjoyed the presentation. And this is just kind of going to be my answer to that because it is different than his for a few different reasons. And it's not good or bad, it's not better or it's not correct, it's not incorrect, it's just different. And he wanted kind of opinions, so here we go. Anyway, with all that aside, I'm just going to go on a free-form rant about what I would choose and why. I narrowed this down to like my top 5 or 6 firearms that I would kind of pick if I could only just own one. And I'm going to go over like the different applications that you would use a different firearm for, what I would personally want to use it for, and it's just like if you had to pick one tool to have out in your garage or something, what would it be? I would most likely pick a hammer, right? It's really basic, multi-purpose, you can do a lot with it, you can use it in a different way than it's intended, and et cetera, et cetera. But you know what I'm saying, I'm kind of just trying to explain this, but again, it's going to be a free-form rant video. Not scripted, just going to go off the cuff. I do have a weapon in mind, and I'm going to go through the top few to show you why I actually come to the conclusion of this, because they all kind of do meld into my choice. Now, there are invariably, there are 3 different types of firearms besides the other, whatever the new definition is, or other than firearm, or whatever the ATF has. But usually, just general consensus, you've got rifles, you've got pistols, and you've got shotguns. And I can go through the definition of each of those on a different video to keep this as short as possible and as relevant and on track as possible. I'm just going to say that there are 3 different types of firearms, and that's what that is. Pistols are very good for concealment and carrying around, and for very short range, good for self-defense, personal defense, and very short range hunting, depending on what caliber you're using, the length of your barrel, etc., etc. But they have their limitations, and shotguns are fantastic. Again, at closer distances, you can actually reach out to 100 to 150 yards with some loads and some barrel lengths, but you're also very limited on that. And great for hunting, great for personal defense, home defense, hard to conceal, things like that. And the range is still, again, very limited. Now, a rifle, is going to be a little bit longer. Usually, you get short-barreled rifles, but generally speaking, when you think of a rifle, you think of something I'm going to show you in a little bit. I'm a rifle person. I think that rifles are the most multi-purpose, what's the term I'm looking for? The most rounded for usefulness in my particular situation and my applications, and we're going to explain why. So just to show you really quick, this is a great choice if it applies to you and you like this. This is a Benelli M4 in the 1014 configuration. This is a shotgun. I love this thing. This thing is one of my prides and joys. It was a lifetime goal to get one. Managed to get that knocked out way before my life was over. I enjoy this thing a lot, but if I could only have one gun, this would not be it, nor would any other shotgun per se. So that's just going to rule out all the shotguns. I'm going to go through a little bit and then give examples of, like, again, I said I'm a rifle guy. I'm kind of foreshadowing and you know, being sneaky with that. But I would not pick a shotgun if I could just own one firearm, nor would I choose a pistol or a handgun. Although they're great for self-defense, close-range encounters, close-range hunting, and concealability and carryability and mobility in general, it doesn't do enough as far as longer-range hunting, certain aspects of self-defense, and just target shooting in general. The fun factor isn't really there for me as much as it needs to be. So we're just going to rule out all pistols here using the Beretta M92 FS as the example of what I would not have if I could only have one gun. So with those two knocked out, that knocks out two entire categories of firearms. So we're stuck with, or we're not stuck, we're left with the rifles. Now, there are many different types of rifles. There are pump action rifles, there are bolt action rifles, there are Mausers, there are Mosin Nagants, there are Lee Enfield, you name it. There are semi-automatic rifles, there's Hakim's, M1 rifles, M1 carbines, AR-15s, AKs, G3s, you name it. I'm just going to go through a couple examples of a kind of platform that again, it makes my top 5 or 6, but I wouldn't choose it, and we're going to go through that right now. So my first one is going to be any sort of like military surplus, or really any bolt action rifle in general in a decent caliber. Like, I'm not talking a 22 caliber bolt action rifle. No, I don't think 22 long rifle is the end all be all of all survival calibers for every possible situation, despite what some gun tubers would have you think in 2013, which is why that stuff's sold out and it's still way overpriced in my opinion. But I digress, we're gonna stay on topic. So right here I've got a Finnish M28 rifle. This is just a random rifle that I pulled it for an example. A lot of people love Mosin Nagants, a lot of people love Mausers. I like both. They both have strengths and weaknesses. These have a lot of parts interchangeability, like also 8mmMauserMan covers in one of his videos. I'm not trying to steal that idea, I've actually covered that before. But no, I like the parts interchangeability, the simplicity, and kind of the ruggedness of the Mosin Nagant platform. Although I love me some 8mm Mauser specifically. I like that caliber a lot. 7mm is really good too. But so anyway, it's not a bias thing. I'm just using this as a prop and example. Now, the reason I wouldn't have this as my one rifle is the magazine capacity is limited at 5 rounds, which in a lot of places it's going to be anyway. But that's not enough for me in a possible self-defense situation or possible hunting situation where you're trying to survive and you need more than 5 shots. Either you're being attacked or you can have the possibility of taking more than one or more animal that you're shooting at to give you more food. In that particular instance, if food is hard to find in a survival setting. 5 rounds, even 10 rounds on a bolt-action rifle, like with an Enfield, it's not going to cut it for me just because it doesn't allow you enough room for error, which you make a lot in dire situations. You're desperate for food, you're malnourished, you're nervous, you're scared, you have adrenaline going. Although it happens to work just fine for me deer hunting out here now because there's nothing shooting back, there's no threat of me starving, obviously, right now. And all that stuff, so it's a lot less stress, and 5 rounds is just fine. Usually I can make the shot in 1. But I also usually take 1 deer because that's all I need, and I'm not in a survival situation where, having 5 rounds, if you miss, 4, and you only get 1 shot on target, well, you could use 10 or more. And also, working a bolt, even though you can do it pretty quickly, you still have to do an action each time that actually takes your finger off the trigger, right? And that to me is a disadvantage as far as just, again, only being able to have 1 rifle for multiple purposes, basically for the rest of your life. So bolt action rifles for me are out. And I know a lot of you are going to be like, well, that's the most accurate, it's the most reliable. Yes, maybe, perhaps, but there's other reasons that I'm going to get to why I'm going to choose what I choose. So we'll go down and we'll talk about a battle rifle, such as the H&K G3. Optics you can mount to it. You can also get the one with the flat top on it, the Picatinny rail. I like this because it's more traditional. I'm kind of a surplus, history nerd. And I like the ZF4, which is pretty fun. But anyway, we're focusing on the G3 itself. So this is in 7.62 by 51mm NATO. And that is a pretty beefy rifle round. It's not quite as small as most rounds. It's also not as big as something that you usually would find in a bolt-action rifle like the M28, which is the 7.62 by 54R. I'd say it's on the bigger side of intermediate rifle cartridges, right? And so the 7.62 by 51 NATO is a great round. However, on certain targets, it's overkill, especially at closer distances. It's very loud. Yes, you've got the distance. It's also very heavy to carry, and it can be more expensive than other certain calibers. Now, this rifle itself is also quite heavy, and it's quite long. I love it, don't get me wrong, it's amazing. I think it's one of the best battle rifles ever made. It competes with the FAL for sure. M14, let's not go there, but it's a really good battle rifle. That's why it's still being used in a large capacity around the world today, in my opinion. But anyway, I wouldn't choose this because it's a really heavy thing. The recoil is pretty substantial, so coming down for a follow-up shot is not going to be quite as simple as something that is similar in a platform, but less powerful caliber, we'll say, but still powerful enough. So the G3 for me, or the FAL, or anything in 7.62x51 or similar, like an actual battle rifle platform, is going to be out for me as well for a few reasons of self-defense. Yes, you've got that. The range, you've got that. The lethality, you've definitely got that. But for smaller game, because you're not going to always want to have all of that power, like the power that the 7.62x51mm has, you, in my opinion, for my application, I think there are better calibers for this. Although, this is the contender if the next two weapons I'm going to show you are not available. So, for number 2, now this is actually a toss-up between this one and my top choice of if I could only own one gun, what would it be? And it's going to be, this is obviously a clone, a semi-automatic clone of the M16A4 service rifle used by the United States Marine Corps. And I don't know if the U.S. Army still issues it. I know the 3rd ID at Benning issued this out when I was in as their main service rifle. I don't know if they've ceased doing that and use the M4 now. But anyway, I like the M4 as well. But to me, the A4 or the A2 even would work. But I like this because it's got a flat top on there, so it's optics ready and stuff like that. Very customizable. This thing has got more range, a little bit more range, a little bit more velocity than the M4, and I like that. You can easily take this out to 500 yards with using 62 grain. Also, I would highly recommend getting at least a 1-in-7 twist barrel so you can shoot basically any weight bullet out of this. Now, ammunition is very plentiful. Right now, it might not be the most affordable because of hoarding and shortages, quote unquote, and all that stuff, but it's generally a really available caliber, 5.56/223, depending on what your weapon can handle. Magazines, easy to find, different kinds of ammo. You can definitely hunt big game with this. Like, people say, oh, it's too small to shoot a deer. I have personally witnessed many different people using the correct bullet and the correct weight of bullet and the correct twist of the barrel and a very accurate shot placement, which is not hard to do with this platform, or a follow-up shot even. I've seen them drop really big animals with a 5.56/223. So if you say it can't be done, you obviously have not seen it yourself, and you have zero experience with it, and you're talking out of your ass, and you're regurgitating FUD lore that you heard or read online. So we're going to go with that. You can definitely drop big game with this. Plus, you've got the magazine capacity, right? Again, if that's restricted, but again, this question is not answering about what's legal in this situation. It's you can only own one gun. This would be a contender for me for a couple different reasons. One, I'm very proficient with it because I was trained on this platform, not the A4, I was trained on the M4, but it's still the same ergonomics, the same handling, it's just a little bit more front heavy, but you get more distance. So I'm very proficient with the AR platform because I have a lot of training on there and then just experience post-military. So it's a very comfortable weapon for me, it's very familiar, it's just like an extension of my body when I've got one in my hand. I'm super proficient with it. Now, as far as the caliber is concerned, yes, the one thing that this has that the M4 doesn't is, again, you can go up to 500 yards, and the problem with 5.56 that I've personally experienced is that when you start to get out to 500, even if you hit an accurate, you place an accurate shot, your velocity and knockdown power for like big game or something like that, or human target, if we're in a war, World War III breaks out, it's Fallout, it's not going to hit as hard as certain other similar calibers. And that to me is the major drawback. Yes, it's familiar to me, and if I would have never known about this next one, thanks to Devin K, this would have been my number one choice, because this is my number one choice for years of like, if shit went down, if shit hit the fan, this is what I would have grabbed. Now, that has changed, and we're gonna go into that right now, so you've waited long enough. I know it's rambly, I'll try to keep this under 20 minutes. This is my number one choice, the SIG 5.56R. Now, it's not just a regular 5.56, as you see. Yes, that is an AK magazine. Yes, it does fire 7.62x39mm. Yes, it is the 5.56 platform. So it's extremely reliable, smooth handling, very accurate. You go bolt, hold open, magazine surplus. That's awesome. Love those. It's extremely smooth, very accurate, easy to handle, easy to clean. And the biggest factor of why I choose this over the H&K G3, the FAL, the AR, the AK, this actually performs well in the winter, which is, I live in a zone which has a pretty cold winter for the most part. We're talking for a big chunk of the winter, you've got sub-zero temperatures, and wind makes it even colder. And I literally last year and the year before have had multiple firearms platforms fail to function or fire more than one shot because it was so cold out. This was not one of those firearms. So that to me is going to be a huge factor why I choose this particular platform. If I didn't know about the R version of this, I would probably go with the SIG 556 because it works in the freezing cold. So I know I threw that out at the end, but I didn't want to spoil anything and go, well, that can work in the cold. From my experience, the AR, basically, most platforms have a really hard time in the cold. Yes, Devin K. and I were supposed to make a video on that last winter. It didn't work out because of the film and everything. So we're going to probably do that this winter when it gets really cold and show you guys how these weapons perform. Now, as far as the caliber, 7.62 by 39, I favor over the 5.56. I know that's a huge debate. I don't want to get into that. It's not a big or dick contest. But I think 7.62 by 39, you get all that power out to about 500 yards with this as well. Okay, and you can mount optics on here. It's versatile. It's very comfortable. It's got very similar ergonomics to an AR, which makes this really easy for me to use. It's very comfortable, etc., etc. But the 7.62 by 39 is very affordable. It usually stays really in stock everywhere, and it's super common. And so are AK mags, right? And so you've got a decent caliber that you can also have a wide range of different bullet weights, hollow points, soft points, full metal jacket for different applications. It's not going to absolutely destroy smaller game like coyotes or you know, something like that, but it will still take down big game and all that stuff with good shot placements. Overall, it's a really versatile caliber. Also great for self-defense. If you go to a, you know, we're in a huge war, you know, World War III breaks out and they invade here. It's great because then you can also use captured ammo because a lot of countries use this. Blah, blah. I just love the way this thing handles. And I mean, this doesn't really have anything to do with it. It's just kind of funny and I just want to show this off. You can get these for any SIG 556 platform. You can get the lug where you can mount the Sherman Rare 57 bayonet. Doesn't that look great? I think it looks great. But anyway, so no, the reason I'm going to choose this is because for self-defense, I don't care about concealability out here where I am because I like to shoot out in the rural areas. I suppose if you didn't have access to land and all that stuff and concealability was a big thing for you, maybe a pistol, that is not of concern to me. So I need the range, which is 500 yards is an okay range for me. That's acceptable. I know with the G3 you can get up to 800 to even 1,000 yards. I don't necessarily need that as much as I'm going to need between 0 and 300 for hunting. That's my main concern with firearms is getting food and self-defense. So that's why I'm choosing the SIG 556R. I'm pretty sure that covers all of the reasons why I chose this. And that's, again, my personal opinion. It is not a fact and it is not advice. This is just what I like. So, hey, 8mmMauserMan, thank you so much for the idea for this video. Unlike other bigger YouTubers, when I was just starting out, I will actually give you credit for this idea and not just totally rip off the idea and be like, oh, no, it never happened. So, again, thanks so much. Your channel is really good, and I hope you get some subs out of this. And, yeah. Anyway, if you want to support my work, you guys probably know how to do that already. Pretty much every YouTuber is the same. We got Patreon. You can become a YouTube channel member. $5 a month or more on either method of support gets you into my Discord server. We got a lot of people on there. It's pretty fun. A lot of really cool things, and we play games and stuff on there. It's just typical. But anyway, if you want to do that, great. If you can't support me financially, but you still want to, you know, like this video, give it a thumbs up, you know, subscribe to the channel, share this video out. You know what to do. And if not, if you can't do any of that or you don't want to, I still appreciate you watching. Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll go from there. So again, 8mmMauserMan, thanks so much for the idea. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.